And we're back, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Daniel Duncan Show. I'm Kellan
Welcome back.
Morad.
Daniel Duncan at your service. Welcome to our show.
Yes, so last week we talked about the Final Four previews. Now we have both championships over. College basketball season is a wrap. We got our one
Yeah.
shining moment. And yeah, so we are going to cover the results of the games, just give our analysis, and then we were also going to talk a little bit about Coach Calipari in Kentucky and kind of the state of college basketball next season potentially. So, yeah, Dan, how are you feeling today?
Feeling good, feeling pumped up. I got a lot of energy in me. Won a lot of bets for
I
March
heard about
Madness.
that, dude. Talk
So,
to me, talk to us about that real quick.
so this March, men and women combined, I went 6 for 7, won 184 bucks on all the games, including the men's championship. It would have been over 200 if Iowa would have won against South Carolina, but I got 184. And earlier tonight actually, I went and won 300 bucks
Oh my
on an
gosh.
NFL slot machine. So I'm loaded. I'm loaded with
Moneybags Duncan, dude. Wow.
yeah,
Dude, I need to go with you, dude. If you got the hot hand, man.
yeah, man.
Wow, dude. Though, what did you say? 128 from the basketball games?
184
184. Dude, you
total.
cleaned up this month.
Hmm.
Wow. Um, okay, before we get into things, Dan, you gotta let the people know what's on your feet today.
Yes, sir. I will do that. Move my stand over.
Look at that great setup, by the way, guys. Oh
Okay.
yeah. There we go.
The Corvette.
Those
I
are
allowed a
very limited
Corvette.
edition.
Hmm.
You won't find those in your closet.
Nope.
Wow, dude. But yeah, look at that. Look at that setup right there. We got Ice Spice, we got Wrigley Field in the background and some Marshawn Lynch gear.
Yeah,
The man cave, dude. It's the best setup in the
yeah,
world.
Marshawn Lynch.
Yep. But
It's
yeah,
the
so
place to hang out in and
it
have a good
is.
time.
Yeah, we had a great time this month watching basketball. And so yeah,
Yes, sir.
that leads us into Iowa versus South Carolina happened a few days ago, Dan, and Caitlin Clark, she made it
Hmm.
back to the championship game. I know we had both picked those teams to be in the championship. A little bit of controversy at the end of the UConn Iowa game with the foul call, but ultimately Iowa deserved to be there. We talked about how aggressive UConn
Yep.
would be, and they were. But still, Clark had an amazing game. But on the flip side of things, Dan, I think South Carolina got a really great look at that UConn game. I think they were in the crowd for that game. Um,
Yeah, Don Daly was in the crowd scouting
yeah,
everyone on Iowa and UConn both, just trying to know who she's gonna match up against.
right. So clearly the scouting, the game plan seemed to work. I would say for the most part, obviously the first part of the game seemed like Iowa got off to a great start. But then the supporting cast kind of failed to hold
Yeah.
up their end a little bit. Shots weren't falling. And Caitlin, she looked a little bit defeated, I would say. She didn't I think she could have gone the unselfish route and just started chucking up things. But um, yeah, she kind of seemed to play at a little slower pace. I know they were guarding her, sometimes picking her up full court. Um, but yeah, tremendous defense from South Carolina, Dan. And I know you would probably want to talk about it, but that matchup down low, dude, tell me about how
Ooh.
disadvantaged Iowa was trying to guard Cardosa.
It was a force trying to go up against Cardosa. Early in the game, it was Iowa had a 13-2 lead. Then it went to like 20-9, and then all of a sudden, Don Staley pushed the button on Cardosa and with Watkins down low, and she got the presence out of both of those players to come in and just dominate down low, and Iowa just couldn't get an advantage after that. They were getting beat.
Yeah. And also, as far as just shooting the ball, they were lights out in the second half, and it's like a very common theme in March, especially this year. A lot of games got out of hand in the second half this month.
Yeah,
As soon as, a team like Iowa, they couldn't buy a bucket. It was like, oh, you see the game's about to get out of hand, and it's like, oh, you need a bucket here. But they couldn't hit it. And
yeah,
yes,
right after when they got off to that hot start, hot start, it dwindled down to South Carolina making the adjustments. And when they made the adjustments, they just, started hitting shots, and they started scoring down low in the paint with Cardosa, with Watkins, getting 3-pointers from Hall, and whoever could
right.
come in crucial situations and score.
A lot of the freshmen too, the impact that they had, I'm forgetting names, my apologies, but um, she hit so many threes, dude, and it's like it's been 2 years. They've lost one game in 2 years, and so just thinking about the program that Don Staley's built, I know Coach Tara, is it again, I forget her name.
Tara Vanderdeer or Vanderbeer,
Vanderdeer. I know she just retired today and broke Coach K's record this year, but oh boy, dude, Dawn Staley, she might be have her eyes set on getting that record, dude. It's incredible the program that she's built. And
yeah,
I also was not I didn't know that Cardosa was from Brazil and that she had never been
yeah,
in the country before high school. And um, now she's going to be a top five pick in the WNBA draft, which is incredible. Could go probably even higher than that, dude, based off of the tournament, would
maybe
you
top
say?
three, maybe if you look
Maybe.
at the draft stock, maybe.
So yeah, I guess to wrap it up, it was, obviously, like we said, the Iowa Hawkeyes, they made it to the championship last year. They lost and they got back again, but they were overmatched. And
Yeah,
yeah, so this season though is it was remarkable, and it'll go down in history. And thinking of the players that are going to get drafted this year, um it's a once in a generation type class, I would say. And there's more on the way for years to come. So
yeah. The league is going to grow substantially over, with all these players coming in. And the sport for women's sports, for basketball in general, from this year, is going to grow instantly over time. And the sport is in good hands. So I see a lot of potential for the game growing in the upcoming years from now.
yeah, and it's interesting. There was some specifically with Caitlin after I know they announced today that they're going to retire her jersey, but um,
I saw that. I saw that.
yeah, but there's been some names in the media, dude, that have just feels like there's a little bit of bitterness towards her success potentially. I know there were a few comments that rub people the wrong way, but regardless of the fact that she's not a national champion, there's so much to look forward to. It's just sad that, we won't get to see her in an Iowa jersey along with all the other seniors. That's the hard part about this.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. They're going to be a young team next year in Iowa. And I mean, losing Clark, losing Marshall,
Right.
losing Burton. I mean,
David. Yeah.
they have 5 seniors that they're going to lose next year, and they're going to be a young team. But I mean, they'll grow from it. I mean, you see teams, lose 4 to 5 seniors and then grow within the
Right.
next 2 3 years.
Hmm. That's the thing, though. It's just college basketball, or excuse me, women's college basketball with players staying longer. You depend on all those upperclassmen, and so, yeah, dude, it's gonna be interesting to see where they go from here.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so something kind of similar happened in the men's game, didn't it? Where, we saw a pretty competitive first half, but things went south very quickly in the second, and we quickly
Oh
learned
yeah.
who the dominant team was. Talk to me about that game.
UConn Huskies, they dominated that game after the back and forth first half. Like it was, a mix of Edie, mix of Smith early for Purdue. But I mean, UConn just dominated the glass. The sets that they ran,
Oh my
high
gosh.
low. I mean, it was so dominating to stop UConn.
Yeah,
So
yeah, Edie got going so quickly, man. It was incredible the start he was off to. But um like you said, UConn just their game plan, they matched up so well. They understood, Purdue, obviously, Edie doesn't shoot threes, but they're not the best. They're not the
no.
second best shooting team in the country without Edie. They rely on, teams sinking into the paint, so they get shooters open. And so with a guy like Klingon, you aren't necessarily in need of that double team, triple team on Edie. So they were able to close out on any shot. They were picking up sometimes full court. I was extremely impressed with Castle's defense. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, and like you said, the sets, dude, oh my gosh, they were incredible. I don't think that Purdue played bad defensively. It was just they would send doubles and UConn literally had the ball on the string, dude. The way they were passing around, it was incredible. It was like they knew exactly where the open man would be. And as much as um as much as Purdue was able to close out and contest, dude, it didn't matter. They hit everything.
No, they did. They hit every shot, and it was dominant from after the first couple of minutes towards like the first like 2 3 minutes in the second half, where you saw high ball screen, you saw handoff, you saw a
Hmm.
motion offense like old school, like Bob Knight, John Wooden when he'd run at UCLA, like those type of sets, and they just executed them perfectly. And Purdue just had nothing. They couldn't answer. They couldn't stop. They couldn't do anything.
There was a set, and I'm forgetting the white 3-point shooter on UConn, but he out of nowhere, it was just Edie was the only guy in the paint. And they ran, I'd never seen, it was so many screens. They threw it in the corner and then started sending off ball screens. Somehow got Edie to draw up maybe only a step or two, and they dumped it off to this guy and he dunked it. And I remember telling you, I was like, I didn't know that guy could dunk. But it was like,
Oh yeah, yeah,
so just they picked apart, they definitely did pick apart Edie a little defensively, and I think obviously, being that size, you are prone to getting into foul trouble. So um it was really hard for Edie to get aggressive in the paint with challenges. And I know he finished with what, 37, dude, but we were saying that was the quietest
yeah.
37 we'd ever seen.
It was a quiet game, and he was 15 of 25 from the field, and he scored 37 points.
Yeah.
And he started off dominating early, physically, just in the paint, and then it would get quiet because UConn would just be ahead. They would be ahead of the sets or in transition. Like they'd be set and ready to go right before Purdue could get back on defense and defend.
Yeah, and they really made the guards feel uncomfortable. Again, what was it? One three-pointer they hit the entire game.
Yeah, it was one.
You're never going to win a game if you hit one three. So,
No,
and
no.
Smith, he he got to his spots. He had so many pull-up jumpers that, but he couldn't make anything. And um,
Scored
I
7 points first half, and then it was five in the second. He had
yeah,
12 points. He
yeah.
started off early,
hmm
but he just couldn't get momentum going.
I saw a photo today of the sight line from when you're on the court in the national championship, and I know you've spent time playing in in a dome and walking the
Yeah,
court and seeing how the eye level, with stands in the background, with video boards and stuff.
his utilization.
And
Yeah.
yeah, what do you think about that? Do you think that the crowd in any way, affected the and kind of messed up with Purdue's shooting ability?
Yes, it did because they were playing in a football stadium. They were
Right.
in state. If they
Like
were
you've
in
been to, right?
footprint, yeah, if they were in footprint arena, they'd be able to get off their shots easily. But
Yeah.
in like a dome football stadium, it is difficult and it can be hard for, whoever to get off a good physical shot, wherever it is on the floor,
hmm
wherever.
Yeah, it seems like it's either it works for you or it doesn't, because obviously teams still score in these playing conditions. But I will say, based off of the picture I saw, it looked it would be hard to shoot with all everything happening behind the backboard. So, um,
Yeah.
but yeah, just it wasn't as competitive as we would have wanted, right?
No, and it's the reason why I took the money line. I thought the spread wouldn't hit. I thought it would be like a close game, like mano a mano,
Yeah.
like 83 with Charles hitting a dunk at the end for North Carolina State. Like I thought it'd be like one of those games. And it was the first matchup with two 7-footers going up against each other. And I looked this up. It was 1984 with Georgetown and Houston, and it was Patrick Ewing versus Keem Olajuwon.
Wow.
Last matchup between two 7-foot beasts inside the paint. So Klingon and Edie, I mean, it's 7-4 versus 7-2. That I
Yeah.
mean, everyone was getting hyped up on that matchup, and we know who won that one. We
Oh
know
my
who
gosh.
he won.
Yep. Edie showed off. He kind of had a little bit of a post move bag at the start of the game, but still, it's it's very slow paced. And like we said, he's kind of scared to foul in the paint, and I know he often looks for fouls. So, in comparison to Klingon, I just Klingon's play style. I mean, of course, it's more fun to watch, but he seemed to have more passion. I know Edie kind of seems to be a quiet guy, but as far as the advertisement of these two giants going up against each other, sure, it was great, but at the end of the day, it was a one-sided game, and Donovan Clean's a two-time champion.
What a beast and what a team! This team literally came into the tournament and was like, we might have had a better team last year, but we're gonna win it again for the players that left the year before. Like
Yep.
that was their mindset going into this.
Yep. And like you said, they lost, I think, three or four guys. I know three of them are in the NBA right now, but um Cam Spencer, I think they got him from Rutgers, right? Like,
Yeah,
holy
he was a
cow, talk
transfer.
about, yeah, it's like they're, I'll bring up Kentucky, for example. It's like all of their highly touted recruits. And obviously, we saw what happened with March and kind of this crumble, this collapse. But it's like knowing your role and being amazing at it, just being the best you could be. That's Cam Spencer. And so, and you saw
Yeah,
him and Hurley hug it out at the end. Like he's just such a Hurley type of
yeah.
guy. And so yeah, talk to me a little bit though, because Dan Hurley, man, he started from a high school coach to now having 2 rings in the last 2 years, dude. Where do you see this UConn program going under Coach Hurley?
I see major success, and I'll tell you why. Because the recruitment classes are going to be like, they're going to be getting 4 or 5 3-star recruits from wherever, high school ball, and then they'll get transfer portal guys wherever they come in
Right.
from. But
Hmm.
I feel like since they've won back-to-back titles, it's kind of like a common thing where it's like, okay, this is the winning program to go to. This is the elite program to go to. Let's all go there and try and build out another legacy and win a championship or two or maybe three in the near future. I feel like he could pass Calhoun for most
Yeah.
title wins if he gets a dominant recruiting class.
Yeah, and he'll find some random out of the portal and turn him into a superstar. Um, but yeah, that kind of leads us to our next thing, Dan. It was funny after Coach Calipari, it was announced that he left for Arkansas. For some reason, Dan Hurley's name was in this list of potential Kentucky candidates, and so
Yeah, yeah, it
um,
was. And he said, talk to my wife. I'm not leaving UConn.
so yeah,
I'm
that kind
not
of
leaving.
thinking about the way college football we saw such a crazy coaching carousel that went down and people jumping programs, obviously Kalen DeBoer, um, Chip Kelly, he left his head coaching job to be a coordinator in the Big Ten. Um, it's interesting though. I don't really foresee this new kind of NIL post and then post Pac-12 era.
Yeah,
I don't, and okay, I know UW just poached Sprinkle from Utah State, but Utah State's not a I guess mid-major, like a big mid-major program, and so I don't foresee as big of a following the money trend going on with college basketball coaches. Also, there and again thinking of the postseason tournaments, right? In college football, it's for the past decade only been it's 4 teams in the playoff. The rest you get bowl games or whatever. And bowl games have become so meaningless. Meanwhile, in college basketball, Dan, you get 64 or plus the four in the tournament,
68.
68. So you have more of a chance to not only get in the tournament, but um, I don't know, there's more of a chance to show off who you are. And so I don't expect because I know Nate Oates, he announced he's staying. I don't expect a coach at a successful program right now to leave their post to go to Kentucky. It might be a guy who's an assistant somewhere right now. It might not, but
Yeah.
both, yeah, both programs, Dan, so many guys are already entering the portal for both Kentucky and Arkansas. Players are decommitting. Coach Calipari, who you've talked about quite a bit this month and have been pretty
Oh
critical
God.
on his success, dude. He has no team right now. Neither does Kentucky or a coach, but he just left
Yeah.
Kentucky to go to a place with a questionable future. What do you make of his decision?
it's another metaphor for what I call him as his nickname, John Fried Calipari.
Yep.
It's it's one of those things where you just see him leave after, having major success at not just Kentucky, but at the other programs that he was at. And look at the downfall that he's, personified on those programs.
Hmm.
So, I mean, the main thing is I was surprised that Musselman left to
Yeah.
begin with. I was surprised he left. And then once Calipari was interested, I'm like, is he really going to take the money? Is he going to take the job and
The
go over
chicken
there?
money.
Like, yeah. And he ended up going there. And, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of him. I've never been a fan of him because of what he's done for basketball and the concept of the one and done. Like I've never been a huge fan of this guy, but I just don't know what's gonna happen over there and what Kentucky's gonna do.
Yeah, dude. I mean, we don't have enough hands to count how many damn NBA players he's produced, and talented ones at that. But there's a difference in, winning championships and producing good players. And I think the quote I've heard before is if you want to go to the NBA, you go to Kentucky and you play for Coach Cal. But
Right.
I guess on the flip side, you could
Or
say the same. Yeah.
wherever he was in his career.
Yeah, his players, I think he's a good coach and he all of his players speak very highly of him in the way that they conducted themselves in practice and pushed each other, but clearly there is some sort of, and I think it's a lot to do with what you talked about with the one and done thing, and players not having experience, players who are young, highly touted, might not necessarily be as committed to team basketball. And so, I guess on the flip side, it's you go to UConn, you play for Coach Hurley if you want to win championships. So,
That's the new thing now. You can go to him or you can go wherever to all these blue blood programs and go play for these successful coaches and try and win at least one or two or potentially, three or four championships if you're that good of a program and if you have a high success rate.
so would you say then, because what, it's been six championships in the last 20 years, is that correct?
Yeah, six titles in the last 25 to 30 years that they've had.
Doesn't get more blue than that, dude. I don't know. It
Yeah.
seems like as far as we could talk about Kentucky and all that, but UConn is the standard. And it's kind of interesting how, and I think we talked about it when we were watching the game. Post Kevin Ollie, they were a little bit in a weird place. And I think the Big East also was, I think they were playing in the American Conference because
Right.
the Big
Yes.
East was whatever that and I remember just either they weren't getting in the tournament or they were barely getting in. And so I think you have to consistently make it to the tournament to stay relevant in college sports. And so I think a lot of people forgot about UConn a little bit. And so, but if you think about strictly based off of championships and stuff, God, six in the last whatever 25, 30 years, that's the standard. That's the team right there.
Amen, brother. Well said. I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, like you could Kentucky, Kansas, Duke, Carolina, you go down the
Gonzaga.
line. It's just people never throw UConn in that mix, and so they definitely will now.
Yeah. they're now throwing them in there into the party, and eventually they'll probably get up there with UCLA if this continues.
Yeah, so I guess so Klingon, he's going to the draft, obviously. Newton, he's graduating. I think Cam Spencer is as well. So this team, dude, has a lot to, make up for, but they did it last year, right? So,
Yeah,
but yeah.
just
Um,
we'll just
it-
have to see. We'll have
yeah,
to see what happens.
yep. So it was a great month of March through April, basketball month. I think it's taken our minds off of baseball at least, which is fine because I know I'm wearing a Blue Jays hat for whatever reason, but we're
Hey,
Mariners
what?
fans.
Ni- 92, 93.
Yep, that was like I always forget it. If I wear hats, people think I'm a fan of that team. Like this weekend when we were getting food and I was wearing my Giants hat and that lady came up to us and she was like, "Hey, that was a great walk off for us last night." And I was like,
Us.
"Us? Who's us?"
Like, wait
Um,
a minute. I was
but
like,
yeah.
the Giants, the San
I know I had
Francisco
to look it up
Giants.
to see what if she was talking about the Giants and I was like, Mariners didn't they lost off a walk off.
Chapman scored. Estrada with the hit.
Yeah. But so yeah, it was a great month. How would you say it lived up to the hype? Because I know we got two one seeds in the championship, but would you say it was eventful?
Yeah, it did. It lived up to the hype. I
Yeah.
mean, sides. I mean, both the women's and the men's sides. I thought Iowa was going to win on the women's, but South Carolina just out dominated them and just won that game. But I mean, both sides were they lived up to everything.
Yeah. Well, March Madness, we will be excited for you in a year's time. But yeah, that was another episode, and we'll have more to cover as things like the NFL draft are coming up in a few weeks. Also, hopefully our
Yep,
Mariners start to win games so we can talk about them. Not that we can't talk
baseball.
about it, they're, losing, um but yeah, so is there anything else you wanted to say before we head out, Dan?
What a great tournament this was. A lot of money that I won, and just tune in, subscribe to our channel, follow us. Um, I enjoyed this month, and it was a great tournament, great turnout, and I'm excited for the next tournament in 2025.
You know it. Alrighty then, guys. We will see you guys next week. Peace.
Peace.